Your program, you and Velo, right here on your very darling station. Every week we bring you legal practitioners, and together we weigh in societal matters. And for the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks thereabout, we've been bringing you conversation about the new tax law, which I think to a very large extent we have really discussed on the program. But as we're moving away gradually from the conversation, because a lot of people are also aware of what is required of them for the new law, there's another interesting topic that we need to look at, and that coming from a recent deadline given by FCCPC on the issue of digital lenders. Now let me start by asking you a question. Have you been called by any loan app before now? And they either ask you if you know a particular name, maybe the name is a friend, a neighbor, or a family member. And then they say, oh, because you're related to this person is owing us money. And because we can't get through to that person, we are getting through to you, you must pay us this money. Or have you been unfortunate, like you've been an unfortunate victim of these lenders? They probably because you couldn't pay back, they kind of post very horrible things about you on social media. Well, there is a new law that is regulating that in 2026. Matter of fact, this law has given deadlines on some of these loan sharks that operate in Nigeria without meeting some requirements of the federal government. As of January 5th, 2026, some of these loan apps are still there operating. A lot of them, with the deadline given, are running up illegally. They are running the services of lending money illegally. So by the end of this conversation today, it's now lies on you if you're like owing any of this app to go do more findings. You know, if this app you're dealing with is a legal institution to borrow money. But let us start the conversation today. Let us break it down on the new laws regulating digital lending in 2026. It's generally, a lot of people believe that there's no money, and so you could be forced to borrow apps from this loan or from your bank in some cases. And then there are sometimes when you just automatically see a loan you did not apply for on your phone. What can you do as an individual in the society? This is what we're discussing on the program today. And to take us further in this conversation, we're being joined by Barrister Ayo Adesina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam, for having me. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to Alice.
Indeed.
Yeah. Because this is my first time, coming here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had a robust conversation on tax. I don't want us to talk about it, but maybe we can just talk briefly on this. And what do you think of the situation now in Nigeria? Do you think people are fully aware of the requirement for the new tax law in Nigeria?
Well, Miriam, regardless of what we may say the situation is, but not everyone will still be aware, no matter how we publicize it, no matter how we talk about it. Some people are aware, but they still feign ignorance, all right? So it is what it is. But of course, the tax law is here, and at its way, it is here to stay. So definitely, it is now applicable, starting from accounting years, personal individuals. If you are a government worker, it's applicable now. By the time you are going to be paying your tax at the end of the month, definitely the new law is what is now applicable. Yeah, so I wouldn't just want to talk about it. Talk about it because there's a lot of it to dissect about that.
Yeah, there is a lot. But let's come back to the digital lenders. Digital lenders are everywhere. In fact, if you're with your phone and your data is on, if you're watching maybe a video on YouTube or you're playing games, there's an ad that comes with these people. They are plenty. So within 5 seconds, they're everywhere. Digital lenders, it's like there's something that alerts them that this is your target audience, they need money or something. So they are everywhere, and people just fall victims. Some people even borrow money for the fun of it. And then at the end of the day, they become victims and all that. And one of the dangerous things people don't know is sometimes they feel like these lenders have forgot the money, not knowing that the money is accumulating in the interest. And then 1 year they can just meet and say, this particular amount you borrowed, so yeah, this is how much it has gotten to because and it becomes a big problem for you. So let's break it down. Let's talk about this new law that is regulating digital lenders, and we as people in Nigeria, how should it go? But I think we should start by talking about the scope. Where does it cover?
Thank you very much, Mariam. All right, I think first of all, I'm going to talk about the law a bit, the genesis, how it came to be. So we are talking about the law that was enacted under Section 53 of the FCCPC, that act that empowers the FCCPC. By FCCPC we mean Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. All right, that's the organization that has to do with everything that has to do with consumers protection, right, and what have you. All right, and the law is what we call the DION. DION means digital, E for electronic, O for online, and N for non-traditional, non-traditional consumer lending regulation. So that's the law we are talking about this evening. So that law regulates activities of online brokers, all right, online lenders, any digital, electronic, as the name connotes, any apps, that lend people money, that give people money. It's not even only money. We have airtime, we have data also covered in that. So anything that has to do with borrowing, that has to do with lending online, this is the law that regulates it. This is the law that protects every consumer. And these things can be embarrassing because a lot of things happen. For example, it's important for everyone, because there was a day I was scrolling through my phone, and the one app just pop on, and I was like, what is it? Just telling people to lend money, to come and borrow money. So now, before, there is no law that governs or regulates the activities of such organizations, of such companies, of such apps. But now there is a law that was enacted last year, July 2025 was when the law came into force. But the ultimatum was given to loan organizations that operate digitally, to register with the FCCPC on or before January 5, 2026. And from January 6, 2026, any organization, any app that is not registered, they are not in compliance. So now the question is, if they are not compliant, what should you do? If they are not compliant,
how do you know too?
All right, so how would you know? So the easiest way to know is that, because there are many of them, myself, before coming here, I went online to check some of them, but you can just visit the website of the FCCPC. Yeah, that is online. Just click on it. You will see a list of compliant organizations or legitimate loan app, as it may be, that you can lend money from, or you can borrow money from, that can lend you money or you can borrow money from, as the case may be. So there's a list on the FCCP website that you can get to check out. Now, the beautiful thing about this law is that it's not only talking about organizations that operate in Nigeria. Even those organizations that don't operate in Nigeria, as long as they are lending money digitally to people in Nigeria, then this law covers them. So anybody that is working online, that is lending people money through electronic means, online means, not traditional means, as a digital means, and you are not in Nigeria, you must still be registered for you to have the power or the authority or the right to lend Nigerians money. So anyone that wants to lend Nigerians money must come under this law. So that is how you can know the organizations that are compliant and the ones that are not compliant. No. So now the question now is who does this law cover? It covers, on the one hand, the apps or the organizations that lend money. On the other hand, the people that are the consumer. And it is important to know that this law was actually made for the consumer, to protect the consumer. It's not really about those people, because as a local practitioner, I've heard so many people complain about these many loan apps. During your introduction also, you said about they will call your family members.
Yes, I've seen cases where they printed, or not, was it printing, or they published an obituary of the person.
Really?
And the person was still alive. It was that serious. I mean, I don't support people who borrow money and not pay back, but there could be reason that could happen. There could be something that happened and you couldn't meet up with the deadline. But these people went as far as making some posts and saying all manner of things, that the person is dead because the person didn't pay their loan. Now imagine what that would do to the person's identity. Even if he ended at just calling, which I don't even think will have been okay. But also, that's another thing. Imagine just having contact of somebody who knows nothing about you. And these people have access. I don't even know how they get the access in the first place to, get through your contact and then start calling people.
Cool.
I think to a very large extent, this law should also address that.
Yeah, of course it did. All right. Of course, this is not to say that if you borrow money, you should not repay. You should, but there are means, there are ways you can go about recovery of debt. All right. Not necessarily by defamation of character, not necessarily by calling relatives and family that were not there when the transaction happened. They were not sure in whatsoever form and like so. Yes, of course, but before the advent of this law, we have the digital privacy laws, which provides the data privacy laws, which provides the data right of every individual. All right. So, but what this loan apps does is that by the time they loan you money, there's a technology they use. I'm not a coder or other things, but there's a way to get access to your contact information. So this law has come to say that you don't have unrestricted access to the database of the phone of the people lending money from you. So you cannot access their contact or like that. You cannot access their pictures like that. Because it's not only contact they access. They can get your pictures. They put your picture out there.
Yeah.
All those things. So you cannot access the content of the phone or the consumer just like that anymore. So this law come to say that is no longer possible. That is no longer right. And now the implication is that where that is done, the consumer can now go ahead to sue. That's the lender now, for whatever defamation, for breach of contract, for breach of agreement, for improper conduct, and as the case may be. So you can do all those. So those are remedies that are available, to consumers out there that are constantly engaging these apps. All right. So because it is important that we protect the data, we protect the privacy, we protect the individual that are coming out to get these loans, because at the point of getting these loans from them, none of them tells them that this is what will happen. If it's like easy Friday.
Sell the whole idea of loan to people very sweet. It is that collection process that comes into bitter story. You see, sometimes they I don't know, they monitor your account or something. They just know that at this point you need money, and so the ads are like intentional. You just see, maybe because of the things you also enter on your phone, because there's also this sensor, right, that the moment you put some things in search, Google is already suggesting things for you.
Yeah.
So it happens. Now we know that this law is after, is protecting majorly the consumers. And we talked about the identity of the consumer, which we've talked about not having access to the contact of these people. There are also some part where the consumers feel like they are the victims, and that's in the charges. The charges is very funny. Some will tell you, oh, we don't have interest rate for lending. Just lend this money, when you're ready, you pay it back, and that's it. Some say, oh, it's 0%, 0.5%, and like that. Well, I've seen cases where people borrow money, they did not let them know any hidden charges. It's during the collection time. Probably you borrowed a 30 days plan, and you're supposed to pay back in the next 30 days. That's when they now start deducting 0.5, they'll deduct 1.5, they'll deduct 2.1. So before you now pay, you see, the money they're collecting from you is now even way more than what you have even bargained from. And I feel like it's a form of, it's not right.
It's extortion.
It's extortion, that's the word. It's not right. If you want to make some charges, let it be known. But they don't make this thing known, because they know if they make it known to people, people will run away from it and then end up taking those things from their account without their permission.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam, because that is another thing that this law comes to address. So this law is saying that when you are getting a loan from any loan app, there should be clearly stated, boldly stated, the terms and conditions should be clearly written, so that anyone that wants to engage such actions, will know what they are in for. The interest rate should be clearly stipulated. The charges should be clearly stipulated, so that there will not be hidden charges, particularly for those people. So it will not be at the point of return that you now get to know about something. So the terms and conditions should be plain. And I'm going to admonish people that are lending also, that are borrowing also, that before you borrow, ensure you go through all these terms and conditions. Some people with urgency, because of the situation and everything, you just want to ensure you take the money and you don't want to know about it. So there's a need for our people to also ensure that they read it terms and this condition carefully, because the law stipulates that it should be clearly stated. There should be a form of agreement that should be assented to, yes, so that there's nothing you are doing without your consent. So,
well, in a situation where this has happened, and some people feel like the procedure to be a whole lot, so they just feel like, you know what, let them take the money. And I can imagine how much these loan apps are making from people who don't really want to pursue this or follow this up. What can be done in such situation? You feel like your rights have been trampled upon and you want to follow it up and, take, especially in the case of this defamation, now that it's criminal for any loan app to do that. And now that this hidden charges is also a serious thing that the law is addressing, what can be done when someone falls victim of this in 2026?
All right, thank you, Miriam.
Just wrap up with that. Not bad.
So the law provides for sanctions, all right? Sanctions to give the people or for the organizations that are engaging in such. So there are two ways you can go about it, all right? So if you want to go for damages, you can talk to a legal practitioner. They would go through the appropriate legal channel to ensure that your rights are preserved, your rights are definitely protected. So maybe through the court. But if you don't want to go through the legal practitioner channel, you can write to the FCCPC also. There are body that regulates such activities. They protect consumers. All right. Not even only when it comes to lending. The FCCPC governs every right of consumers' right. Across board. Even banking sector. Of course, if you have banking issues and you want to escalate issues,
the bank is another. Oh my God!
The FCCPC are one of the bodies.
Banks banks majorly, because this SMS charges, but
too. Remember nothing about data on they don't use data on FSCPC. The data did not request it.
And then the amount they charge for this loan, you can also take airtime loans and data loans, and the amounts they charge, and it's a whole lot. And I feel like Nigerians are just suffering and smiling every single time when we bring this up. Well, we have to run along now. Time is not our time, but trust us to bring you all of this conversation the way it is, directly from the law, what the law says. And we have legal practitioners who are here to interpret it in every form. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We've had a great time. This is the program with Fionette Godwilling, where we bring you another interesting topic from the legal perspective, of course.